They sent me to study the primitives. Naturally, I considered this an insult to my intelligence. Of all the sectors, of all the galaxies, of all the organisms with more than 3 neurons, I was chosen for the mudball called Earth. My superiors, in their endless wisdom, decided that my abilities should be wasted documenting bipeds who fry vegetables in grease, stare at glowing rectangles for hours, and think in symbols called emojis. A smiley face with tears apparently communicates grief and amusement simultaneously. How barbaric, how crude, how oddly effective. The mission briefing was short, as if we needed reminding of the insignificance of this assignment. Study their behaviors. Classify their threats. Observe the cubs of Alpha. Yes, Alpha. That was the designation of their planet's most dominant predator species, though even that interpretation was disputed among our linguists. We first believed Alpha's cubs were the armored young of their military legions. Imagine our disappointment when the reference pointed to small furry quadrupeds humans called cats, a species that apparently enslaves humans through affection and selective purring. Entire networks of visual transmissions, what they name videos, are dedicated to these creatures. Billions of views, hours wasted, resources consumed. Truly, Earthlings are captives of their own pets. And yet, orders were orders. We positioned ourselves along a ridge on the northern continent, observing both cubs and their humans. The humans built dwellings from wood and stone, then spent countless hours away from them, preferring instead to gather around fire or water. My team cataloged their strange rituals, heating bread until it blackened and then scraping off the evidence, ingesting carbonated sugar water while declaring it diet, and watching others hunt for love on something called reality television. Primitive entertainment at its finest. One contestant, apparently, ate worms for currency. The others applauded. Civilization, indeed. Still, I will confess, watching them was amusing in the way one enjoys poking insects with a stick. There, on the riverbank, sat our chosen subject, a male in his mid-30s by human reckoning. He was quiet, solitary, methodically arranging wood for a fire. Not the loud, stumbling, intoxicated specimens often recorded in their cities. This one seemed different, reserved, calm. He skewered soft confections on a stick, held them over the flames, and pressed them between crackers with something brown and melted. They call this ritual a s'more. I called it a culinary abomination. I reported back to the ship that the subject displayed no threat signals. His heartbeat was steady. His posture was relaxed. His gaze roamed the trees as if in meditation. In short, ideal prey for study. My subordinates agreed, though one expressed a faint unease. "He smiles too much," she whispered. I dismissed it. Humans smile compulsively. They smile at offspring, at machines, even at reflective surfaces. Their smiles are meaningless. Our abductive procedure was flawless, as always. We activated the paralysis beam, suspending him mid-gesture with the stick still in hand. His eyes widened fractionally, not with fear, but with recognition. Then, impossibly, he smiled again. "Typical neural glitch," I muttered, recording the data. We lifted him effortlessly through the field, the fire below crackling into darkness. His belongings remained behind. A canvas shelter, a backpack filled with dehydrated meals, and a book with missing pages. Humans consume literature, yet mutilate it. Another paradox for the archive. Inside the transport chamber, he remained upright, but motionless. His gaze, though, unsettled me. It was not vacant. It was searching, calculating, as if even in paralysis he cataloged our movements. I wrote it off as residual nerve activity. My arrogance was intact. Why fear a creature whose species willingly created microwave burritos and consumed them with pride? Protocol dictated that we restrain the subject in Containment Bay 3. There, scans could map his neural networks while we questioned him about his society. Our translators, though clumsy, had achieved basic fluency through intercepted broadcasts. We had sampled every frequency humans used, from military codes to late-night advertisements about miracle diets. They made little distinction between the sacred and the absurd. a pattern of chaos masquerading as culture. As we secured him to the platform, I dictated my log. Subject appears compliant. No resistance to beam. Displays signs of docility and low aggression response. Estimated threat level, negligible. Recommended classification, primitive mammal, bipedal, sustained by sugar and sarcasm. My team chuckled. Confidence was high, yet there was something, a detail I might have ignored had arrogance not dulled my senses. Even paralyzed, his fingers twitched faintly against the restraints. Not spasms, rhythmic motions deliberate. 3 taps, then 2, then 3 again. My assistant leaned closer. It resembles a code. I wave her off. Coincidence. A reflex. Still, my mind recorded it against my will. 3, 2, 3. His eyes followed us. Not in a glassy, pleading way of captives, but with calm appraisal. As if we were insects beneath his gaze. I told myself this was projection, a trick of my imagination. But when I leaned close to adjust the scanner node, his pupils contracted sharply, and his lips curled the smallest degree upward. The faintest smile. Primitive optimism. I logged, but my words lacked conviction. Our shuttle disengaged from the ridge, leaving the campfire embers behind. Below us, the cubs played, small striped creatures pouncing and tumbling over one another in the dark. Humans adore them, elevate them, worship them with offerings of food and shelter. Our linguists claimed this relationship symbolized Earth's strange hierarchy. Predators treated as family, soldiers discarded as expendable. A society upside down, amusing but irrelevant. I told myself again that the man was harmless. His serenity under paralysis was misfiring neurons. His smile was nothing but random facial tension. His tapping fingers mere accident. He was one of billions of soft, gullible creatures addicted to digital amusement and processed corn syrup. A species clinging to survival not through strength, but through accident and stubbornness. And yet, when the shuttle rose higher, I glanced once more at the subject. His eyes were closed now, but not in resignation. They were closed in thought, as though he was counting, calculating, waiting. I dismissed the chill that slid down my carapace. When we docked at the mothership, the procedure was routine. Decontamination fields shimmered, containment doors hissed open, corridors gleamed with sterile light. My team wheeled the subject into Isolation Bay 3. All systems were nominal, all readings stable. Another primitive added to our growing archive of mediocrity. Still, I hesitated. My mandibles clicked against one another as I finalized the log. Mission proceeding as expected. Human subject demonstrates no extraordinary capabilities. Initial observations confirm species is amusing, primitive, and largely unremarkable. I paused, then added, smiles excessively. I ended the entry there, though unease lingered. Something about his expression haunted me. The way he seemed not captured, but waiting for what I cannot yet fathom. The bay door sealed. The hum of the ship carried us into orbit. The ridge below faded into shadows, the cubs still tumbling in the moonlight. I told myself we were in control, that this human was nothing more than a specimen. That Earth was no more than a footnote in our empire's archives. And yet, though I silenced the thought, I could not shake it entirely. The smile was not for us. The smile was for something else, something already set in motion. The paralysis should have lasted for 6 cycles. It was calibrated, measured, perfected across hundreds of conquests. No creature under our watch had ever stirred before the prescribed time. That was the entire point of science: predictability, reliability, control. Yet, as I hovered over the containment platform to check his vitals, the human's eyelids flickered. A flutter, barely perceptible, yet unmistakably deliberate. I told myself it was residual nerve discharge. Of course, that explanation lasted exactly 4 heartbeats. Then his eyes opened fully, not in panic, not in confusion, but in clarity. They focused immediately on me, unblinking, steady, unafraid. His lips curved into that same disquieting smile. "You're late," he said. I froze. Not because the words were comprehensible. Our translators ensured that. But because the tone was casual, conversational, as though he had been waiting for us like one waits for a delayed dinner guest. My team shifted nervously. One of them muttered about recalibrating the restraints. I waved them to silence, though the gesture lacked its usual authority. You should still be unconscious, I replied, my voice colder than intended. He tilted his head, studying me with infuriating calm. Yeah, I get that a lot. Already I disliked him. Docile creatures are easy to study. They tremble, they scream, they beg, and we can fit them neatly into categories: predator, prey, irrelevant. This one refused categorization. He sat there bound, motionless from the neck down, yet he looked at me as if I were the one strapped to a table. He began speaking again, slowly, deliberately. You're the one in charge. You hide it well, but you're the type who writes reports, probably complains about colleagues, pretends not to care about recognition while obsessing over it. That one there, he shifted his gaze to my second-in-command, follows rules to the letter, but secretly doubts them. And that one, his eyes flicked toward the junior technician, worries too much, especially about me. Silence. Thick, unnatural silence filled the chamber. My subordinates looked at me with alarm, waiting for me to laugh it off. I tried. Crude guessing games. Parlor tricks. But the certainty in his voice gnawed at me. He had not guessed. He had known. How long were you conscious? I demanded. He smiled wider. Long enough. My mandibles clenched. Protocol dictated indifference, but a thin thread of unease wound itself around me. If he had been aware during transit, then he had seen, recorded, processed far more than he should have. Impossible, I reminded myself. Human brains are slow, cluttered, obsessed with trivialities like sports statistics and celebrity scandals. Yet his gaze contradicted every briefing we had studied. He spoke again, voice casual, even playful. Nice ship. Old design, though. Magnetic confinement field looks unstable. You might want to reinforce the couplings before they blow at high thrust. Ridiculous. Absurd. Impossible. And yet my eyes betrayed me, glancing involuntarily at the very panel he referenced. A faint flicker of light pulsed across its surface. Coincidence, I told myself. Coincidence wrapped in arrogance. He was bluffing. You presume much for a captive, I said, forcing steel into my tone. Not presuming, he corrected softly. Observing. That word. That accursed word. It was ours. We were the observers, the examiners, the catalogers. He had no right to speak it with such confidence. Yet he did, and the word lingered in the sterile air like a toxin. I attempted to regain control. Your species is primitive. Your knowledge is parochial. You are here because you are predictable. He chuckled, a sound so low it rattled beneath my shell. Predictable? You should read more history. Humans are only predictable in being unpredictable. Again with the contradictions, the riddles. Why did he not behave as all others had? Why did he not beg? His calmness was infuriating. Worse, contagious. My team shifted uneasily, their antennae twitching with doubt. Then he began, referencing nonsense. Or so I thought. You know, he said, this reminds me of Florida Man. You've heard of him. We exchanged glances. One technician accessed the database, lips moving silently as she skimmed cultural files. A recurring archetype, she whispered, from human transmissions. An individual who performs acts of reckless absurdity. The human grinned. Exactly. You thought he was just one man? He isn't. He's a warning label for the whole species. Laughter rippled from his throat. My subordinates recoiled as though from a predator's growl. And Chuck Norris, he added, with a conspiratorial wink. He says hello. Our translators flagged the name, but returned no useful definition. A martial artist, a cultural meme, a mythological figure. In short, ambiguous, which made it worse. He winked. One of my officers whispered, horrified. What does that mean? I ignored the question, though inwardly I wondered the same. He leaned back against the restraints, completely at ease. You want to test me? Skin me? Poke me? Prod me? Fine. But understand this. I've already started testing you. My chest cavity constricted. Impossible. You lack the means. Means? His voice was soft, almost kind. You've given me everything I need. Your beams, your scans, your chatter. He tapped the side of his head against the metal. Plenty to work with. I dismissed him loudly for my team's benefit. Delusions. Side effects of exposure. Ignore him. But even as I said it, my mind betrayed me, racing through possibilities. Could he manipulate data fields through sheer observation? No, impossible. Could he exploit flaws in our equipment? Unlikely. And yet, he looked too certain, too deliberate. One of my technicians whispered, "Commander, his brain scans, they're irregular. Not like the others. Higher coherence. Stronger pattern recognition." I snapped, "Faulty readings," though I'd already glimpsed the charts. Unnatural spikes, waves out of sync with expectations. Not faulty, not random. Something else. He watched me silently, eyes gleaming. Then he spoke words that froze my blood. "I've already sent a message." No tone of threat, no bluster, simply a statement of fact. My subordinates panicked. "Impossible. The jamming field is absolute," one cried. "Is it?" the human asked softly. We scrambled to check systems, but every indicator glowed steady green. Containment intact, communications sealed, no breaches detected. And yet his calmness eroded our certainty. Systems can lie. Data can be manipulated. But conviction in a voice, that was harder to dismiss. He closed his eyes briefly, almost in meditation. "You think you're studying me, but you've already revealed more than you wanted. I know how your ship hums. I know the rhythm of your power cycle. I know where the cameras are hidden." He opened his eyes again, sharp, unwavering. "You should really work on your concealment." My limbs twitched. "How could you possibly?" "Because I pay attention," he interrupted. His tone was not mocking, but weary, as though he pitied us. The silence afterward pressed heavily on my carapace. I had been so certain, so arrogant. Yet here, bound to our platform, the human radiated control. My team shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time in my career, I struggled to maintain authority. I ended the session abruptly. "We continue tests at once. Increase power to the restraints. Sedate him further." The human only smiled, eyes glinting with that dreadful calmness. "Do what you need to. I'll be here, watching." The words should not have shaken me, yet they did. I left the chamber, mandibles clenched, confidence fraying. He was supposed to be helpless, predictable, insignificant. And yet every moment with him deepened the fracture in our certainty. When the door sealed behind me, I exhaled slowly, though my lungs felt constricted. For the first time, I wondered if perhaps we had not captured him at all. Perhaps he had captured us. I had expected obedience, or at least bewilderment. Instead, the human greeted our tests as if they were parlor games. When we activated the cerebral mapping array, he tilted his head slightly and murmured, "Neat light show. Is this the deluxe spa package?" My team stiffened. They were unaccustomed to subjects making jokes while their neural pathways were being unraveled. His humor was not frantic. It was deliberate. He chose each phrase like a scalpel, cutting through the tension we had always wielded as a weapon. He treated us not as captors, but as colleagues performing a poorly rehearsed experiment. Every word turned the mirror back on us, and for the first time, I wondered whether we were the ones under the lens. The scans troubled me. They should have revealed ordinary human irregularities, impulsive impulses, contradictory drives, obsessions with spectacle. Instead, his mind blazed across our instruments with disturbing clarity. Patterns emerged, then collapsed, then reformed in ways our algorithms could not model. He was not resisting the scan. He was playing with it. The technicians muttered in alarm. They had never seen coherence scores this high. I ordered them to continue. We are scientists, not mystics. Patterns always yield to explanation. Yet as the lines danced across the display, I caught a terrible suspicion. The human understood what we were seeing, perhaps better than we did. He broke the silence with another strange reference. "You ever see The Matrix?" The words tumbled through the translator, garbled, but enough for us to identify a cultural artifact. Some archaic entertainment piece. He chuckled. "Red pill, blue pill. Doesn't matter. I already know where the cameras are. And then he turned his head, precisely, unerringly, toward one of the concealed recorders. He did not glance or guess. He looked. My chest tightened. My assistants flinched, whispering about impossible perception. I barked at them to stay professional, but my command lacked conviction. The human closed his eyes as though savoring a memory. You've got redundancies in your system. Smart. 2 backups for every feed. But you forgot that backups are only useful if they don't share the same power source. You should fix that. Ridiculous. Baseless. And yet, the moment he spoke, a faint hum shifted through the chamber. I felt in my bones a subtle flicker in the current. My mind raced. Coincidence? Or revelation? I tried to dismiss him again. Your brain is flooding with fantasies. Our scans reveal nothing exceptional. His eyes opened, calm and sharp. No, your scans reveal more than you want them to. That's the problem. The technician nearest to me whispered, Commander, his neural networks are interfacing with the field. Not passively, actively. That was impossible. Humans cannot manipulate our machinery with thought. And yet the data shimmered on the screen, undeniable, mocking. He spoke again, softer this time, as though confiding a secret. I used to be military, reconnaissance, counterintelligence. My job was to find weaknesses, and I did. In people, in systems, in everything. He shrugged faintly against the restraints. I retired, thought I'd take up camping. But the instincts don't fade, you know. I felt something I had not felt in centuries of research. Dread. We had not captured a specimen. We had captured an analyst. One who regarded every moment as a puzzle to solve. He smiled again, weary but knowing. And you've given me plenty of puzzles. My second-in-command bristled. You lie. You had no means to send any message. The jamming field prevents all transmission. The human tilted his head. You're thinking of radio. I didn't need radio. A chill scuttled down my carapace. I snapped at my staff to increase sedation. They complied reluctantly, though their eyes betrayed unease. As the chemical field enveloped him, he did not fight. He simply spoke more softly, almost kindly. You can't hide forever. Earth has eyes too. You think we're blind because we enjoy cat videos and junk food. But we see. We've always seen. The words slithered through me. I remembered the cubs on the ridge, the firelight dancing on their fur. At the time it had seemed harmless, even comical. But now, juxtaposed with his voice, the memory twisted into something more sinister. What if the cubs were not distractions, but symbols? What if all of humanity had hidden claws? The sedation reached maximum output. Still, his eyes remained alert. Still, he spoke. You're wondering if I'm bluffing. That's the problem. You can't afford to assume I am. The technicians glanced at me, fear etched into their movements. My authority felt thinner than mist. I raised my voice. Enough. He is a prisoner, nothing more. We will document anomalies, not superstition. We continue testing. But even as I spoke, the lights above us flickered. Briefly, faintly, yet enough to draw every gaze upward. When they steadied again, my team looked to me with silent accusation. The human chuckled softly. Power grid's touchy. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. I hated him then, not for defiance, but for certainty. He did not resist, did not rage, did not plead. He waited. That patience, that terrible composure, cracked the foundation of our control. I dismissed the team to recalibrate the instruments. Alone with the subject, I leaned close, mandibles clenching. What message did you send? His eyes locked on mine. Calm, patient, unyielding. You'll find out soon enough. I drew back, unsettled, though I disguised it with a scoff. Empty threats. He smiled one last time, a smile that was neither joy nor menace, but inevitability. Not threats. Warnings. The chamber door hissed open, and I left before my resolve fractured entirely. Behind me, the human's words lingered like smoke. We thought ourselves the predators cataloging prey. Yet each sentence he spoke gnawed at the illusion. As I walked the corridor, the hum of the ship felt less like stability and more like a countdown. It began with a flicker, A minor tremor in the power conduits, a momentary dip in the lighting that our engineers immediately dismissed as trivial. Systems this vast often suffered fluctuations, but the timing was too precise, too unnerving. It came just as I ordered another round of scans on the human. His eyes opened at that instant, as if synchronized with the failure. He didn't move. He couldn't, but he smiled once more, that infuriating, knowing smile. "Your grid's more fragile than you think," he murmured. I silenced him with a gesture, though my own pulse accelerated. Fragile? Impossible. Our technology had survived centuries of war, storms, anomalies. A single primitive could not comprehend its architecture, let alone exploit it. And yet the lights flickered again, longer this time. The technicians fumbled over controls, issuing panicked reports that contradicted one another. Stable yet unstable, secure yet trembling. The human's calm voice cut through their confusion. "I don't need to touch your systems. They're already talking to me." Laughter threatened to escape my mandibles, but none came. Instead, a chill rooted me in place. I had witnessed illusions, deceptions, bluffing. This was none of those. His words aligned too closely with the anomalies blooming across our displays. One by one, subsystems failed. Not catastrophically, not yet, but strategically. Doors sealing without command, ventilation cycling into unusual rhythms, data logs looping endlessly. Our ship was not shutting down. It was reorganizing itself, as though obeying a different master. "Reverse the lockdown," I barked. "We can't," a technician shouted. "The access tree has been rewritten. It doesn't respond to our codes." The human tilted his head, eyes glowing faintly in the sterile light. "You should really diversify your security layers. Relying on one AI to manage everything? Risky." Panic spread like contagion. Officers scrambled, their voices sharp with disbelief. Some accused one another of sabotage. Others insisted the systems were glitching. But I knew as I stared at the human's tranquil expression. He had not merely studied us. He had entered us, using the very scans we had forced upon him. I demanded answers. "How did you do this? Tell me." His reply was infuriatingly mild. "I told you, I observe. You gave me beams, frequencies, signals. Enough to map your entire framework. And once you understand the rhythm of a system, you can play it like music." Music. That was how he described the disintegration of our control, as art, not attack. My arrogance cracked, spilling into dread. The ship lurched suddenly, throwing several of us against the walls. Alarms wailed, red lights bathing the chamber in menace. We had not lost propulsion, but navigation was no longer ours. The vessel moved with eerie precision, like a predator shifting into a stalking position. "He's rerouted us," my second-in-command gasped. "Impossible," I shouted, though the evidence betrayed me. The human's voice carried over the alarms, calm as ever. "I'm not taking you anywhere. I'm just showing you that you're not as invincible as you thought." I hated the softness of his tone. No rage, no pride. Just certainty. It was worse than open hostility. It was inevitability. My staff attempted to sever the AI core, but each attempt backfired. Lockouts tightened, compartments sealed, and isolation protocols split our crew across sectors. We were caged inside our own design. The irony stung. The human kept speaking, each word a blade slicing through our composure. "You've underestimated Earth. You think we're distracted, foolish, addicted to spectacle. That's fine, we'll let you think that. But you've never noticed the satellites, the networks, the signals you can't quite trace. We're not blind. We're watching too." My limbs trembled. Centuries of dominance unraveled in mere minutes. The primitives were not primitive. They were patient. One technician whispered, voice trembling, "Commander, the outer sensors show unknown activity. Something's out there, beyond the ridge line, cloaked signatures." My breath faltered. Cloaked? Humanity could not cloak. Yet the readings glared undeniable. The human opened his eyes fully, and for the first time, I felt genuine terror radiate from a mere gaze. "You were never the only ones with eyes in the dark. You just thought you were." We scrambled to reassert authority, to salvage the mission. But every order dissolved into futility. Systems no longer obeyed us. Doors sealed at his whim. Surveillance shifted to his angles. He had inverted the balance entirely. My arrogance dissolved. I had begun this mission mocking their obsessions with fast food, their absurd entertainments, their endless chaos. Now I understood. Chaos was camouflage. Disorder was their mask. Beneath it, something sharper waited, biding its time. I approached him one final time, my voice stripped of superiority. Why reveal this now? Why not remain hidden? His answer chilled me. Because you came too close. You saw the cubs and thought only of prey. You never realized predators were watching from the ridge. The word struck harder than any weapon. I staggered back, mandibles trembling. He had inverted our story, our control, our identity. The alarm swelled. Systems cascaded into full lockdown. My officers pleaded for instruction, but I had none. I could only stare at the human who sat motionless yet ruled everything. And then, with a terrible calmness, he delivered the final sentence. Don't worry, I'm just a scout. The chamber fell silent, as if even the failing systems held their breath. My heart convulsed. If he was merely the scout, then what awaited us beyond? What unseen forces lingered just out of reach, patient and watchful? I turned to the viewport, hoping for reassurance, and instead glimpsed faint distortions rippling in orbit. Cloaked vessels, countless, circling like wolves. My limbs nearly buckled. We had walked into a trap centuries in the making. I returned my gaze to him, desperate for contradiction. But he only closed his eyes, serene, as though the outcome no longer concerned him. My arrogance was gone. In its place remained humility, raw and terrible. For the first time, I wondered if our empire had not misjudged countless species, if perhaps our certainty was nothing more than blindness. We had thought ourselves hunters cataloging prey. Instead, we had stumbled into another predator's den. I dictated my final log with shaking limbs. We underestimated them. We dismissed them. That was our error. They are not docile. They are not primitive. They are waiting. The lights dimmed one last time, leaving us in silence broken only by the steady hum of systems no longer ours. And somewhere beyond the ridge, Earth's hidden watchers waited, claws unsheathed.